All right. Hey, everybody. It's Big Jim coming from the Big Jim's Records podcast. Oh, my God. The insanity of it. Look who I have over there. None other than Mr. Frank Koziik.
Get my dirty fingernails. I've been working on my motorcycle.
That's all right. That's all right. You got to have a little grime.
We're grooming.
You're not that clean. You know, you're still, you still got that little bit of grease under you. Mr. Frank Koziik, how the hell are you? You were telling me you were enjoying the pandemic. Oh, and here's a visitor.
It's Henry.
The boss has arrived.
But,
and who is this we have?
He's set up in his little, on his little fucking pad here. He likes to hang out. Come on, there we go. Get the camera shot, buddy. There you go. People can look at you instead of me.
There you go. That works. So you're enjoying the pandemic?
No complaints, man. I mean, you know, I like being at home. I don't, and you know, everybody that works for me at KidRobot, I set them all up remote, so I don't have to travel. I was traveling like a lot. It was getting really old. Living in a hotel sucks. So I get to stay at home. Oddly enough, business is up. You know, all the people that collect our stuff are still collecting more and not spending money on other shit. So I'm getting, you know, more commissions than I can handle. The toy business is good. No complaints. And, you know, I just do stuff internationally and everybody else is okay right now. So,
yeah.
You know, I've been doing a lot of work for Asia and Europe lately. So no issues for me, you know.
Cool.
I have a lot of friends that are pretty fucked, you know, but I also, though, like a lot of other artists like Jermaine and stuff, they're doing better too all of a sudden. So silver linings for us in a weird way. And, you know, I hate parades and football and all that stupid shit. So I couldn't be happier that's shut down, you know, because that's just like stupid stuff. So
yeah,
I think a lot of people, I think some people are freaking out, but I think other people, like, this might be time to readjust and slow down their lifestyle and be real people again instead of just being like, you know, the frenzy of the last 10 years, right? Like,
sure,
stay home, make some bread, think about yourself, think about your life, like, you know, stop running around in circles, kind of a thing. So,
sure. No,
also, you know, dude, I'm old and therefore no longer party. So, you know, bars and shows, I could give a fuck. So, you know, I don't need that to be happy. In fact, you know, like, I haven't left the house in like 8 months basically and gotten tons of rad projects done. So it's all good.
That rocks, man. That rocks.
Got all my bikes fixed up. Got my fucking workshop built out. I'm building other shit. You know, it's great. So I'm kind of having a good time watching the world burn.
You were working on you were rebuilding a car or two there also. I remember you posting pictures.
Yeah, the car's done and running fine. I have a bunch of motorcycles and they sat for a long time. You know, weren't running and got shitty. So actually been going through one by one. Got 2 of them redone. Working on the shovel head now. That'll take a couple of months. Then I got to do my Ducatis. But I'm hoping by Christmas I'll have all the bikes sort of gone through, fixed up, cleaned up, running again, you know, so they can sit some more.
Sure.
But you know, it feels good to work on the stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, I collect and restore vintage tools for my shop. I don't really like modern tools, so I've been buying all this shit from like the 30s and 40s and like you know, power tools and drills and mills and shit, and like taking them apart, learning about them, restoring them, using them. So my goal is that, you know, the next build I do, I can machine everything here myself. I don't have to like send shit out to shops and stuff. So
that's cool.
You know, it's a nice feeling. Because I'm on the computer all day. You know, all the artwork stuff is digital these days for me. So like, it's nice to go outside into the shop area and use 85-year-old machines to actually make physical things out of wood and metal. It's nice. It's really super relaxing, actually.
Yeah. Well, it's because I remember the one time I was at Man's Ruin in San Francisco, and you had your little work, your work area where you're working on a painting. Do you miss the hands-on creative? Do you miss?
No, I mean, I still do. You know, as you can see behind me, I still do. You know, original art commissions of stuff, or, I still work up the initial designs, paper and pencil and stuff like that. But, you can't like send a painting now, right? You have to send a digital file. So at some point, unless it's like a painting, right, or an original pen and ink for somebody that commissioned it, if it's a piece of work that's going to be reproduced, as soon as I have it like figured out, then it gets scanned in and reworked and all done, and then like all the sculpting for the new stuff. I used to physically sculpt stuff. Now it's all done digital. It's a lot better, a lot faster, and a lot cheaper. So, and you have an archive. You don't have to like make another one if you fuck it up or whatever. Like you have a digital archive.
Sure.
So, I've successfully transitioned into all that. So now when I paint or make stuff, it's purely a hobby and it's fun again, rather than being my job like it used to be. Does that make sense? Because you never want to do the shit that's work, right? You want to do the shit that's not work. So it kind of
that's fun, yeah. That's why I have a record store. I don't want to work in shit retail otherwise. I want to have it at least somewhat interesting, or else I would.
So so are you online too now? Good. Is that going good for you?
Online I do. I've always done a lot of sales online, but I'm really concentrating with having the stores, here, just trying to get the locals to come out and check the stuff out in person, especially with the poster artwork. Like I'm starting to do more of it because people see pictures.
Yeah, so I'm about to launch. I'm going to be doing a ton of new like art prints in the next 2 years. So I made a big deal with an outfit called I Am Retro. This guy Omar. We're going to do a series of 20 prints over 2 years, which he'll be selling online, which will be available. And
I'll be grabbing them.
And a while back, I did 3 or 4 prints for a place called Odd Toes. And so those will be hitting the market soon. So in the next couple of years, if you like my 2-dimensional silkscreen stuff, there's going to be about 24 new prints coming out.
Wow.
Reasonably priced, small editions, signed and numbered, real nice, 10, 12, 14 colors, $100, $150 a piece. So there is, kind of got back, because the thing is, since I don't have a print shop anymore, I kind of stopped doing a lot of it. But so now I'm using my friend's print shop, and these guys are all into it. So there's a whole program again.
Sure.
So you'll be seeing a lot more of the print work in the next couple of years. I did a big bunch of it around 2012, 2013, and I got busy with the toys. And now I kind of feel like doing a bunch. I'm revisiting old work and making it better, doing new designs. Stuff that was never a print, like stuff, I would do these like sort of graphic paintings that people like, and they were never prints. I'm making some of those prints. I'm doing new stuff in the same vein. So it should be interesting for people that like that kind of classic style.
Oh, yeah. There are still people, including me. I love that stuff. But
right now there's a bunch of prints up over at a place called oddtoes.com. It's a guy down on the peninsula. It's pretty good. And then I Am Retro will start carrying stuff in about 6 weeks. The first prints will be hitting over there.
Very cool. Very cool. And this is all new material. You're not doing any, you're not reprinting, because that's all art rock stuff, right? So that's,
there's some of that's still available too, but this is all, it might be some of the same imagery, but reworked, and other things are brand new. So.
Wow. Because I'll tell you,
a lot of that stuff is long sold out, and people always ask me about it. And they don't want to pay like $5,000 on eBay for fucking shit. So like, okay, I'll do another edition that's affordable, right?
Yeah.
But different enough so that people can tell it's like different.
Because when people see that stuff on the screen on the computer, it looks cool. But when they see it in person, and they go, "Wow!" When they see, because it's almost like
that's what I like about silkscreen. It has a texture to it that you can like pick up on.
Exactly. It's like the ink is alive, and it's coming
slightly imperfect, and that's good too.
Oh yeah.
It's not like super slick. It has a kind of a rawness to it that I still like. So
that's great. That's for people who don't know. Frank Kozik started doing concert posters back when he was in Austin, Texas, and he would do it for just he just started doing it mostly for bands that you liked. And for venues, right? It was somewhere.
It's crazy. That's like 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Started doing the posters.
And from there, but the thing that was different with your posters and like say what everyone else was doing is you've really added kind of a twisted ebb to them, and it kind of gave everything a nice little edge, and it was like, wow, this is different.
Well, there weren't any barriers or filters. I was just doing whatever the fuck I thought would be cool or funny or whatever, and luckily I had access to like equipment. And back then Austin was dirt cheap to live in. You could have a big place, you could have a workshop for like, and not even have to have a job, just work part-time. So it was super easy. I mean, I had a 14-room house and my rent was like $400 a month. Now those times are gone in Austin, but this is back when Austin was maybe like under 200,000 people. Yeah. There weren't any skyscrapers. It was just this like sleepy college town. That was incredibly cool,
Sure.
I mean, I moved there in like 1980. And I'd say, between 1980 and 1990, it was really amazing kind of place. Then it kind of it got real popular and they started developing it, and it just, and then I moved in 93, came out to the West Coast. Yeah. So I was there for 13 years, and I was lucky I was there kind of like at the perfect period for my interests. Sure. Which was sort of like, punk rock, that weird Texas psychedelic rock stuff, like the Butthole Surfers, grunge, all of that shit. It was a good time. There were like 5 or 6 clubs all the time. There was a show every night. It was like $3 to get in. Beers were $1. It was like fucking paradise, man. And, got to see, because where Austin is in the middle of the country, every band that went on a tour, they always stopped to play a show, right? They could have a place to crash. They could make gas money. Do a show in the middle of nothing in between the East and West Coast. So all these bands that later got super famous, I got to see like on their first tour. And sometimes I even worked at that club. I got to do a poster, right? Shit like, Sonic Youth, Nirvana, all those bands, they were like little bands, the Melvins, right? They were like these little tiny bands that would come and play like, to like 20 people. I saw a salon show. There were like this place called Steamboat Springs. There was like 12 people there, but they still just did this amazing show. So, the 80s were an interesting time in Texas. They really were.
It was. I could still remember seeing a cow show. No, not the cows, the God Bullies at Maxwell's in Hoboken. There was 5 people there. But it was an amazing show. It was just absolutely amazing. They were
saw 100 Butthole Surfer shows before they sort of got, real corporate rock.
Yeah.
It was a good time, but, like any place else, didn't know what we had. Everybody complained all the time, but looking back, it was kind of like, if you were into that kind of thing, it was kind of a golden age, and a lot of interesting shit happened out of there. It launched me into a bigger world. So, it was a good time. I was lucky to have ended up there.
Yeah. And then you after
that was a long time ago, man.
That was a long time ago.
Long time ago.
These gray hairs. Yeah.
There's been a lot of other shit since, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But people always want to know about those days. So
I mean, people are curious.
I'll write a book of what I remember.
They want to know about them, because nowadays there is nothing like that anywhere in the United States. That
those days are over. I mean, the internet has removed the need to socialize that way. I mean, back then, it was impossible. There was not a lot of input. Everybody made up their own weird shit. We would get bits and pieces of information and sort of like make our own version of it. Like, oh, we want to be punk rock, and this is what it's supposed to be like. And everybody was young and interested and excited and thinking they're, and so it was cool. It was a fun scene. I don't think it, maybe it changed the world a little bit, but I think now there's so much input. Like you can get on this, on the internet, which I love, and the whole world is there. So sure. All of that energy is now online, because you don't have to connect physically anymore to sort of get a mental kick out of it, right? Yeah. But I can tell you, nothing beats, warm summer night, going to a crazy show, seeing some fucking bands outdoors that are really tripped out, and there's plenty of girls and like good times, man. It was fun. It was
fun. Absolutely.
And no worries. It was just, you were just stoked to be there.
Yeah. And then you had you started a record label, Man's Ruin. Well, first
after I came out here.
Yeah. You had it.
The independent music scene allowed me to make a really good living. So
yeah. Rise Records was first, right? You did Rise Records?
Yeah, that was with, I can't remember his name. His name was Greg or something. He was a dude that worked at the record store. we did like 3 or 4 records together. Did he want to do it on his own? And I think he actually went out and bought like pressing equipment from Mexico and set it up in a warehouse. I never really kept track of what happened to that. That was right about the time I left Austin.
Yeah.
I think he went on to produce records. I mean, how many records did he end up putting out? Do you
No
know?
idea.
Were you buying shit from him like in the mid 90s?
No, I was getting them from you. And I
I
remember
mean, his taste in bands was a little soft, and to be honest, I remember like he usually wanted to put out bands that had girls in them that he had crushes on.
Oh.
So I don't know, you know, I don't know what. I mean, the reason I started my thing is in the mid 90s, you know, the music scene had been really good to me, and I got a lot of commercial work. So, and at the same time, a lot of bands that I liked were no longer stylish and couldn't get deals. Which was weird, you know, in the mid 90s was a weird time for underground music.
The Nirvana
And then I did a big job for Nike, right? And they paid me like an enormous amount of money to do an ad campaign for them. And so I was like, okay, everyone talks all this righteous shit. I'm going to do it. Like, I really liked vinyl records. Nobody was doing vinyl records then, like no one. So my thing was like, I want to do the right thing. So the whole idea behind the record label at first was it was going to be vinyl only, which it was for like 60 or 70 releases.
Sure.
Vinyl only. I would give the band's recording budget and had no interest in producing them or knowing what they were going to record. So the deal was I'll pay for the recording, record whatever you want, give it to me, I'll put it out, no censorship, no interference. I don't want to do the album cover art, and you can't tell me what to do. And then it was a 50-50 profit split in the bands. They kept their publishing. I didn't want anything to do with the publishing.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun. Like some bands really put out like amazing shit. Some bands, whatever, you know, had band problems. They did their things. Some records sold really well. Some didn't sell at all. You know, I like sort of Sabbath metal stuff and psychedelic stuff and weird shit. So, you know, we kind of put out some of the first stoner rock records in the States.
Oh yeah, those are great records.
Right, you know, like, and, you know, the Last Caius record, like weird shit like that. Like, you know, we did the first High on Fire record. I did the first Turbo Negro records here. So I think we did something like, I remember like 212 or 214 releases over 5 years. Things were going really good, but then we outgrew our independent distributor, which was Mordam. They didn't want to carry us anymore because we were selling too many records. Because we started doing CDs at the band's request, and it got really crazy. So I had to make this half-ass deal, you know, so Caroline couldn't carry us either. So I made this half-ass deal with RED, which was owned by, they're a national distributor that were owned by Sony.
Oh yeah.
And so I went in there, and their whole thing was like, look, dude, we have all these like stock inventory levels you have to cover. You have to like repress your entire catalog to, you know, I was like, that's too much. And they're like, no, you have to do it. So like, okay. So I went to the bank and got a loan. Spent like $2 million. I repressed the whole catalog, new barcodes and shit, met their inventory levels. And then I started getting phone calls like, okay, are you going to buy into the like metal, you know, college metal buy? I'm like, what's that? It's like, oh, it's like $40,000 a week so that we can get you on college metal stations and stuff. I'm like, dude, I can't afford that. It was like his total. And so they're like, oh, then we're not really going to like push your inventory. But it sold anyways. And then I wasn't getting paid, and I wasn't getting paid. I was like getting super in debt. All right. I was like selling, like I sold my car to make payroll. I sold my motorcycles. I didn't pay myself for like 6 months. I was barely making rent. I was paying everybody's payroll, trying to pay the bills. And they owed me this huge amount of money, you know. And then finally Sony they got out of the music business. So they pulled, no one knows about this story. Everybody blames the collapse of independent music on the internet. That had something to do with it. But the big deal was like 2001 and 2002, Sony had kind of like glommed up all the distribution in the US, and then they fucking just left and they all folded. So RED folded and left me holding the bag for like $2 million. And they fucked over a lot of other labels too. Okay, like a lot of independent labels took this massive hit and went out of business. And other independent distributors that were dependent on the chain, right? And no one has ever written an article about that. There was this like huge collapse in the independent music distribution system in 2001, 2002, which put, I'd say, probably like 40 small labels out of business.
Oh yeah.
You know,
you hear
it was fucked, right? And then, you know, it was crazy. And so basically I got left holding the bag for all this money. Where am I going to get $2 million that was owed me, right? They declared bankruptcy. So I had to declare bankruptcy. I had to shut the whole thing down. It was fucked because it was like the month I had to shut it down was like on paper was our biggest sales month, but I was never going to get paid and my bills were due. What are you going to do? You can't sue Sony, you know, it would take fucking 10 years. So that was fucked. So at that point, I was kind of burned out on music anyways.
Yeah.
And I just turned 40.
I'll do it.
Right? Right. I just turned 40. I was kind of like, okay, like this is just basically, I had made a lot of money on commercial design work, which was like my life savings. And I took it all and put it into the label to keep it going for the last 6 months. So not only did I end up owing a couple of $1 million to the bank and to pressing plants and all that shit, but I had put something like $800,000 of my own money, which was like all the money I'd made for like 10 years, I had saved up, into the label, and didn't get any of that back either. So basically it all went away. I started at zero again in 2002.
Yeah.
And then, you know, got into the toy game, did a bunch of fun, you know, and worked my way back up, and now things are fine. I'm doing great.
How did
but it was, you know, a couple of brutal years, man, afterwards, because, you know, I shouldn't have put my own money into the label.
It's the worst business to be in, doing a record label. I learned that so many times.
And what's weird, and dude, you know, like a year afterwards, like fucking, who was it? Like Interscope or somebody came and they were like, hey man, we'll fund you in a new label. Like, because the big thing is I had, you know, sort of, we did the Desert Sessions thing, which then turned into the Queens of the Stone Age. And everybody was like fucking had a huge boner, right, about that shit right at the end.
Oh yeah. So
they're like, oh, you know, we want you to find the next Queens, and like, you know, we'll set you up and we'll give you all this. I was like, no, dude, I'm done. I don't want to be in the music business anymore. And so I totally walked away from it 100% and started doing the toy thing and started doing my commercial gigs again and did some fine art. And
how did the toy thing come about? How did that come about?
What's that?
How did the toy situation come about for you? When did you say, hey?
Well, I had always like collected toys, right? Ever since maybe like, the early 80s, Japanese like anime toys and shit, especially. A lot of Bandai stuff, like die-cast, weird live action Japanese kid shows. And then I really got into Hello Kitty in the 90s. And I was going to Japan a lot doing art stuff, not music stuff, just going over there doing like art shows and advertising work. And I had an apartment over there and stuff in the 90s. And I got to know all these guys that were all the like sort of like street fashion guys, you know, like guys that ended up being Bathing Ape and Neighborhood and Junio and Electric College Bounty Hunter. And so at that time, this is like maybe like 97, Takashita had done like a Rat Fink toy. So all these guys were into collecting American advertising mascots, like Speedy Alka-Seltzer, Captain Crunch. They were into that stuff, right? And so a couple of them decided that they wanted to make like retro-looking rubber toys as mascots for their clothing businesses, for displays, right? So they made these things, and what happened is, this one guy made these cool, like Disney-looking rubber dogs. They found they found where they used to make the rubber toys. Most of those companies were now making like fishing lures and stuff, as rotocast vinyl. So they started making these toys like for mascots and display pieces, and people were coming into the store going, well, fuck your shirts. I want to buy the dog. And like, they're like, oh, there's something here, right? And so this sort of underground hipster toy scene started up in like Shinjuku and Harajuku in Tokyo. And it came out of those fashion brands. It was different in Hong Kong. That was Michael Lau, who did like hip hop shit in college. And So this is like, so I come from the Japanese sort of side of things. So I did all my first releases. I did my first toy in 1999 with Bounty Hunter, which is like a clothing label. And then they started this company called Medicom, which is now a big toy company. And the Medicom guys are like, we want to do toys with you. So like probably the first 8 to 10 toy releases I did were all done in Japan with Medicom. I did a Mickey Mouse toy with them. I did all the bear bricks and shit. I did a bunch of the rabbit toys, including the Bounty Hunter one. And I was really into it. And like, I remember like around 2002, I was getting all these toys in, and I was offered a gallery show in Los Angeles at Lulu's. So I wanted to make it all about these toys I was super into. So like I had all the cool toys there, which go for huge money now. Mm. All the toys were there. I did all these big paintings of the toys and toy, like of that genre, and nothing sold. Everybody came and they're like, dude, where's all the rock stuff? I'm like, I don't do that anymore. This is like my new trip. And they're like, oh, were you gay now? We don't get this. And I'm like, you know what, man? Like, I think you're too old for this. This is like the new thing. And then like a year later, it got super popular with sort of like the East Coast hip hop scene, right? Mm-hmm. And like street freaks and shit on it in Queens and Brooklyn and stuff. They got into it, younger crowd, and it just fucking blew the fuck up. And I was lucky. I had already been doing stuff. Kaz was smart too. He did toys early too. So Kaz and myself were the first American guys to do the toys. And he's gone, this way in the fine art world, and I've now kind of dominate the rest of it, all the commercial side of it. I've done so many toys, and I run KidRobot, which is like a big toy company, and we work with like all the movie studios and all the licenses and everything, man. And like Disney. So me and the team, we design Disney stuff, and we design Hello Kitty stuff, and we do artist toys, and we on and on, every license you can think of, Rick and Morty, and SpongeBob, and Simpsons, and Bob's Burgers, and weird shit, and, so, now I've been and I don't work for them. I have a contract with them to run their company. And I say now, between my own toy releases and the stuff done at KidRobot, probably have overseen possibly 5,000 different products releases.
Yeah, I was going to ask you how many different things you think you've done, because you probably done more toys.
Small, dude. I mean, the posters I might have done 400, right? Album covers I did about 250. With the toys now, because it's been about 20 years. I say, I work with the Warhol Foundation and the Basquiat Estate, and we work with the Museum of Modern Art, and it's becoming kind of like I'm not going to say important, but it's become a recognizable genre of art now, the designer toy thing.
Sure.
And like I say, between my own designs and designs I oversee and curate and have a team of like 16 people that work for me, well over 5,000 different commercial products in the last, since like I say, 2005, so last 15 years.
Does any
about 5,000 projects, actually.
Wow.
It's a lot.
Any companies ever come to you and ask for like a Kozik treatment? Like what?
All the time. All the time I'm doing it now. I mean, always. Yep. I still do a lot of advertising work. More and more, they're just licensing my stuff from me. So, internationally, it's mostly clothing. But nationally, I do a lot of work with Push and Bear or Pull and Bear, which is a huge company, except for the United States. They're Russians. Right now, I'm doing a big thing with Zara, work with shoe companies, all that stuff. Do consult. I work in China a lot. I consult for companies in China. I have my own product lines in China. I actually sell stuff to China. They don't sell stuff. So it's gotten pretty interesting.
I bet, man. And you're going to be continuing doing more? You still got more?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's ideal, dude. I mean, it's all remote. It's digital. It's online. I do these, I have these meetings on Zoom and Microsoft Teams and God knows what else 20 times a day. So I'm able to run all this stuff and work on all these projects from the comfort of my own studio.
Hey, you can't ask for more than that, man.
So, you know, I don't have to work, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
But I like to. Uh,
Yeah, there's something to be
you know,
said
it's
for it.
nice to. I'm addicted to being a useful part of emerging culture and stuff like that. So I'm really happy because dude, I've been doing this for 40 years. 40 years. I'm still selling stuff to teenagers, little
Yeah,
kids. Actually, I'm selling stuff to kids.
sure.
I'm selling stuff to their older brothers and sisters. I'm selling stuff to their parents, and I'm selling shit to their grandparents, bro. So,
It's true.
uh, I'm not a fine artist. I'm not a household name, but my days are super busy, and I get a lot of happy feedback from the fans and the customers, and life is good. You know, it can be done. You can be a creative person and make a living. It's completely possible.
Anything you see coming up that's starting to grow that you think is going to have
I
some
think things are
real
gonna,
interest?
all bets are off with the pandemic, right? Stuff that was gonna go ballistic, like Disney's big expansion, Meow Wolf. I know people that work there; they all, got the shaft. Meow Wolf was exploding. There was a lot of stuff that was really starting to take off. That was like really interesting because it was using a lot of visuals and art and new technologies and stuff. A lot of that's fucked now. So I think that if the pandemic goes on any longer, I mean, I think that a lot of that focus is going to shift to a virtual experience. So I think if companies like, Oculus and Magic Leap and all that fucking shit kind of start to deliver on their promises, which are like 5 years old now, that sort of immersive virtual technology that you could use from your home might be the next big thing as far as like a creative content. The problem with that, though, is that it takes so many people, and it's such a big deal to make it. It's like akin to a video game that there's going to be thousands of anonymous workers and very, very few like artists. You know what I'm saying? Like one or two will rise to the top and kind of be able to put their name on it. So in a weird way, there's this insane level of creativity going on in the digital world, but it's really hard to have the human component because even in like KidRobot, something as simple as making a plush toy takes like 30 people between interfacing with the customers and if it's a licensor and then the creative team and then developing the product and in the factory and the shipping logistics and the point of sales and the
Sure.
marketing and the online, you know what I'm saying? So where it used to be really simple, like someone would call me on the phone and go, "Hey man, we got a show Friday," and I could do the thing and run down and get it printed real fast. And, now it's you gotta kind of have to have your shit together, you know, to make it happen. At the same time, though, you do have access to the technology, you do have access to manufacturing, so it's far easier to get a commercial product made these days. I
Yeah.
think. Also, the other thing too you got to think about is like when I started out, there was maybe 20 or 30 at the most sort of independent artists with somewhat of a name that were making a living in this sort of weird counter realm that we all live in, right? Because there was no access. There was no, now online, there's hundreds of thousands of content creators. A lot of them are really, really good. A lot of them are really good technically. Where a lot of them sort of fail is the ideas. They're just, this is the world's coolest looking Pikachu or whatever, right? Which is fine. But people complain about like, and arts are dying. I'm like, dude, like you have no idea. There is so much insane art shit going on right now that's accessible for free through the internet that it's fucking unreal. 20, 30, 40 years ago, man, like there was none of that going on, dude.
Oh
There
yeah.
was the lucky few. Now there's just fucking a bazillion artists. And a lot of them are actually making, an okay living if they have their shit together. They have like, they do live streaming. They have YouTube channels. They're really good at posting on all the art sites. They're selling their merch. You know what I'm saying? They're getting their merch made. It's sold. via remote control. So there is this whole other universe of, I mean, I know hundreds of people that are making a living just doing the most random shit. Like, you know, I draw cats as mermaids. They're making a living because of the technology. And that just never existed back in the day. I mean, you might have been able to be like the local weird art person and sell the shit in your front yard, but you know, you weren't shipping it, you know, to Japan like you can now.
If someone was
so it's, to me, it's kind of this like insane golden age, but then, you know, expectations get raised, right? So people go, oh, the arts are dead, but no, dude, there's so many people doing the music and the 2D art and the 3D. It's fucking crazy, man. It's awesome, you know. It's just that no one's curating it in a big, major, important organ. Like there isn't like this one filter. There isn't this like one website or one magazine or one TV station that's like telling you, look at all this crazy shit. You have to go find it for yourself.
That's true. And in a way, it's gotten just as hard to find the stuff now as it was then, because some of it,
you gotta go down a lot of rabbit holes, man.
The good stuff sells out so fast and it's gone in no time, and you gotta go, you know, good luck trying to find it. Yeah. Any artists that are really ringing your bell these days? Any other young artists that you're really thinking like they're really on something really cool?
Not in sort of the classic sense, you know, that we thought about it, either in the museum level or even like sort of like the lowbrow Times or whatever. I mean, there's fucking people out there, like, it's Instagram, man. So, I mean, who do I like? There's this guy called Bone Thrower that I really like. And what's Dead Robot is really good, I think. Skinner is amazing. A bunch of people, I can't even remember their names because I'm bad with names. I just remember the visuals. Sure. There's tons of crazy, interesting shit on YouTube where it's like people, you know, or a person just doing their own music and then like doing weird graphic videos. Like there's this crazy outfit called Carpenter Brute, which might just be like one person, and they do these like crazy records that are based on John Carpenter musical themes from different movies. Like just all kinds of super interesting shit out there, man. Like I really like this performer called Poppy, like, because she's done this super weird journey, and she does this fucked up like super sugary sweet kind of stuff mixed with like death metal and like these like super elaborate costumes and these weird fucked up videos, and like you can't tell if she's like somebody's pawn or she's, you know, the genius, or she's cool or she's fucked. It's completely weird, and it was only on YouTube, and like she's like huge now and like never had like a regular record deal or any of this kind of weird shit, you know. I mean, I'm sure it's changed by now because she moves so fast. So there's just a lot of super interesting crap out there. And what I like about it is that, like, you know, personally, like, you know, I'm almost 60, man. Like, I don't want to go to the fucking show. But I can sit online and find, like, the wildest shit ever, enjoy it. I got my super high-quality earphones, right? And suck up that energy and see those visuals and get excited here, right? Whereas in the old days, if you just stayed in your room at home, you never fucking got any energy in, right? Yeah. So the other thing I've noticed, I'm talking a lot, but I guess this is the whole point of the podcast.
No, it's fascinating.
The other thing that is interesting is that what the internet has done is that normally in the cycle of popular entertainment, even really underground versions of it is still popular entertainment. It always had a really short lifespan. Someone would come and go in a couple of years, and you'd never hear about it again because nobody archived it, nobody cared about it. It became the realm of like creepy, you know, basement dwelling collectors, right?
Sure.
Well, now the internet makes everything eternal. So now there are new generations and people like getting turned on to like the weirdest shit from. So bands that were these like little tiny unknown things 25 years ago now have this whole life online. And they're creating new content and they're making money on it, and they're interacting with younger people and new people and reconnecting with old people. It's real interesting. You know, I mean, I'm a big fan. Like, I like to watch those reaction videos on YouTube, where it'll be somebody that's like from a completely different like social and economic class from them. So it'll be like some kid that grew up in like, you know, the middle of Compton that never listened to rock music. And so they listen to like Led Zeppelin or a punk band or whatever for the first time. And they freak the fuck out because they're like, this is unreal. Like, how can people, you know what I'm saying? So the internet's done that. The internet has done a lot of that, where it's like, you know, letting people connect cross-genre, cross-culture at a remove that's safe for them mentally or physically or whatever, right? And be able to appreciate other forms of creativity. You know, and I find that like super. It's like with China, dude. Like, I have this whole other career in China. And I go over there and people are super chill. Like, China is like, as long as you're okay with the fucking government being in charge, which they fucking definitely are, they pretty much leave everybody alone to fucking, I mean, I've seen the freakiest, coolest, most forward, like fashion, art, like just the weirdest shit going on over there. Just the one rule is you don't criticize the government. So, you know, here in the West, we have this like innate need to criticize the government to give us validity. Over there, they're like, okay, we don't care who's in charge because times are good. I'm going to dress really weird and go do weird shit and make weird art. And it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to say they have a really good system. There's a lot of shit going on. But for now, they've been really hands off on the art scene over there. And there's some really wild shit happening. And, you know, people over there, man, you know, there's a different ethos of education and work. So when someone decides to get into a creative field, they really fucking get into it and they get really good at it. And like, you know, they do like hardcore technique training, and like the work they do is insanely good on every level, you know. And thanks to the world opening up through digital technology, you can interact with that if you choose to.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I think it's good.
It's you know what,
now, there's
I thought was
problems, but, you know.
One thing I thought was kind of weird I thought for sure in America with the art scene, with like a lot of the poster scene, you'd see a lot more anti-orange one, you know, when he had gotten elected president, but I haven't really seen too much. You think there's a reason why? Because I know Reagan, there was tons, every band was doing anti-Reagan things, and even
I don't know, dude. I mean, you know, on the social media feeds, I'm not saying. I mean, I'm seeing some pretty gnarly shit in real life, but I mean, because you know, we go to the protests here, there's protests all the time.
Yeah. Well, no,
there's
an
enormous amount of anti-Trump visuals. I mean, my Facebook and Instagram feeds is like every other post is some fucked up, funny, weird, insane, all the way from the most primitive possible memes to like super elaborate like 3D rendered animations. There's a ton of anti-Trump stuff out there. It's just like I said, like there isn't like you can't go to your local record store and have that record store have curated all that shit into a display where you go there and like, oh, there it all is. I feel special. I know about everything. It's just out there now.
Yeah.
You know, there's no gatekeepers anymore, which is a good thing and a bad thing, but I think it's more of a good thing.
Sure. You think the memes are going to go down as be recognized as an art form someday? Because I mean, that is where a lot of the creativity is.
They've always existed. You know, in the past, it would be graffiti. Okay, that would just spread. Kilroy was here, right?
Yeah.
Back to Roman times and beyond. Graffiti, satirical pamphlets that would circulate. There's a whole history of like popular street songs that were memes, and every country had them from like, you know, medieval times until the 19th century, where there would be songs in the street and people would walk around selling the sheet music and lyrics for a penny, kind of a thing, that would address everything that was going on in their society all the time. I mean, Tin Pan Alley here in America, even into the 30s. So there was this whole world of street song that no longer exists. That was like, those were memes. So the meme thing now, they're amazing because you can't make one funny on purpose. It's usually like lucky, and there's just, and by the time, and it's just something that you get this innate understanding of, like in 1 second. Like, so if I was to sit down and like describe what's going on, okay, the strong dog and the weak dog that's going around now, right? Where's like the muscle dog and like the little stupid one. You instantly know what's going on, but if you had to sit down and explain that to a fucking alien, it would take you like 2 hours. Just exactly why that's funny. So memes are, I think, they're totally an art form. They're the latest version of things that have always been going on, street slang, whatever the fuck, right? They're just visual. Yeah. And what's interesting is, while they seem very simplistic a lot of times, the ones that contain text are actually, they get super interesting because of the deconstruction and the context swirling of the text. And then like, what's also super interesting about the memes, like I'm kind of an amateur, entomologist, right? And I'm really interested in social histories and sort of like the triggers behind popular movement, all this weird shit, I mean, we could get like super deep on this, but it would be boring for everybody. But what's really fascinating is, and I used to try to do this in my posters, actually. If you look at the old posters, the memes evolve and they conflate and they contract and they expand and they turn themselves inside out, and then like you start over here, by the time it gets over here, it means the exact opposite, and then you make fun of it being opposite by it. It's super fascinating if you sort of get past the mental barrier that it looks really crude. There's something about it that goes back to like just the most primal symbolism, and then especially when there's text that is actually subtext, that is actually ironic, but is not really ironic. You know what I'm saying? They can get really deep, really fast, and you can spend a lot of time sort of thinking about. And it's not like there's professional. I mean, there's professional meme makers, but those are always kind of lame. The best ones are always just like, who knows what, some rando just did it. Okay. Yeah. And they managed to translate some unexplainable human thought process into this like super, super basic, simple form. It's fucking amazing. I mean, there's advertising professionals that go to school for 6 years and then work in the industry for 40 years that they wish they could have like made that meme. That's just some normal person just like, oh, this will be fucking funny. And this pure energy comes through. Sounds corny, but if you think about it, it's true. Like the memes are actually superhuman. They're really revealing of like humanity, interior thought, dialogue, and the human condition on like so many multiple levels. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, I met you in '92 and you're a fascinating motherfucker back then. And once again, you're still one of the more interesting people I've ever talked to, Mr. Frank Kozik. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us here. And I'm gonna keep let me know when you got new posters out, because I'll be buying them. I'll be posting them up in my store so people can
how do I see the podcast? What's the name of your podcast? How do you subscribe?
It's bigjimsrecords.com. I'll be posting on the Big Jim's Records page probably tomorrow. It'll be up there, and I'll put what do they call those little things where they include you on it, so you should be able to see it that way.
Well, send me a thing, and I'll put it on my Instagram and Facebook too. Maybe we'll get a couple of listeners.
Thank you so much, Frank. You be well, stay well, and please stay dangerous.
I'll try.
Take care, my friend.
Right, brother.